and episode 36. I don't know what number that is with my hands. It's a 3 and then a 6. Welcome to I Just Got My Kid to Sleep. Shh, he's asleep. Shh. I did technically get him to sleep, but I think really the day got him to sleep. I feel like some people, when they say they got their kid to sleep, like they hello sleepers, which, by the way, I got a compliment. I was on a podcast, what's it called? Justin Severson's podcast at Acme in Minneapolis. There's a reel on my Instagram. I gotta look up the name of it. It's a crossover podcast where he complimented he thought the word sleeper was really good. So thank you for coming up with that, sleepers. Anyway, a lot of times when people say they just got their kid to sleep, when a normal person says it, when a person who's like good at parenting, I'm not bad. I just I have room to improve. Like if I got a report card every quarter, like in elementary school, I feel like I would get good grades in like the subjects, and then like the overall not being your friend to your friend to your kid, and being a dad, that'd be like misconduct or whatever. Not misconduct, but like I got a B- in conduct one time in second grade, which I thought was funny. I'm very conducted. I'm a good dad. I like to play. It's fun to play with the kids, with my son. It sounds weird. My son, it's not weird. My son, like when we go to the playground, I'm playing tag. I mean, if there's a bunch of kids there and he's playing with the kids, then I would love a break. Actually, thank you. I go to I'm Catholic, and I go to mass on Sundays with him when I'm in town at 5 p.m. at a specific parish, because I know that there's kids there that will play in the playground afterwards. And because the first time it happened, it felt like a little vacation, just because he doesn't have like siblings, so just to have a couple other kids he can play with. Anyway, when I hear someone say I just got my kid to sleep, I imagine like they got him to take a bath, and then they like read him one book, and then they like sort of just put him in the bed and walked away. Like when I say I got my kid to sleep, it was like it was like a 4 hour, like it's like at 4 hours. It's about 4 hours. I don't think it's like he needs everything we do to fall asleep, but in his opinion, he needs everything. But he doesn't say it like that. He's very polite these days. But anyway, we wear him out, and now he goes to sleep. And now, shh, be quiet, because he's asleep. I don't think he's gonna wake up. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Like, I wonder how much it takes for me to wake up. I used to think I was a pretty light sleeper. Even before the podcast. I remember when I was in college, my senior year of college, we had a house. I had a house with 8 other guys and 1 squirrel. And the squirrel never paid rent on time. And that's a story for another day. No, I had 2 rooms. Like it was like a big house, and everyone got to figure out. I forget how we got to pick out who got to pick first, but it all kind of worked out. I was on the 2nd floor, which is the perfect floor, and I got 2 small rooms, which I thought was ideal. No one wanted the 2 small. I didn't have to fight anybody for that, but I got 2 rooms. I had an office and a bedroom. That's the only time in my life I've had an office. Wow, no wonder everything was so easy. No, it was great. I had 2 small rooms, and my bedroom was right by the front door, but no one used that entrance because there was a doorway on the bottom that people come in that way and then go all the way up to the top if they're on the 3rd floor. Anyway, one time 2 of my roommates from college came in my front door, and they barely knocked, and I just freaked out on my door because I was a very light sleeper back then. I don't know if I'm a light sleeper now. I have no idea. Isn't that weird? I have no idea when I fall asleep on a plane if I snore. I have no idea. I for sure have. I definitely have snore because you can kind of, if you sleep really well on a plane and you're snoring, you can kind of tell, because there'll be that point where your dream doesn't have snores in it. Like, it's not like all of a sudden you hear like a and you're like, oh, is that a boat? And you're like, no, it's me. No, it's like, I don't know how to say it. It's a really good sleep when you can be dreaming and then feel both what's going on in the dream and what's going on in the sleep. And I've had that on the plane where I'm like, oh, I was snoring for sure. And I like it. I like it because I don't care about others. No, I definitely care about others, just not like here's the thing. I just feel like when it comes to sleep and it comes to like getting really, really restful sleep, I don't feel like anything I do could be wrong. I don't, and I know that's not true. Sleepwalkers, the ones I've known in my life, sleep really well and feel very, very well rested, but they could also get hurt or whatever. I don't think maybe you could hurt other people. So that's not good. If you're like waking up your roommate because you're strangling him because you think he's a monster in your dream, and he's like, what are you doing? And then you both wake, and then he wakes up and you wake up, and then you're like, well, it was just because I was sleeping really well. I don't know if that's going to hold up in court. Well, why did you go in your roommate's room anyways? Because you were sleeping. But I do feel like when you get really good sleep, it's good. But on the plane, I sleep. I don't exclusively sleep on planes. I sleep in my bed too. But when I travel, because I'm a parent, I usually of a young child who needs a lot. He doesn't need. It's not anything like special. I think he needs less than I think I over need him. Like I've just given up on a lot of the stuff I used to try to push him through. I've just given up. I only have one child. I'm relatively young as a parent, and I'm already in like the fifth child of the parent of the dad who's like in his late in his 50s or whatever. Or I don't know. How old are people when they're old? I used to think 50 was old, but now people that were like 10 years, 15 years, whatever, people that were older than me when I started doing comedy, I'm like, they're going to be 50 now. Like, they're 50. And I'm like, well, that can't be old. They don't look old. Like, some of them look old. But, like, that's just, it feels like, I don't know. I've heard like some 20 in their ladies in their late 20s talk on a podcast recently. Or maybe it was like a reel or something. I don't know how I ingest all of this, consume all of this media either. How? Why? Where? When? But they were talking about in their late 20s how 30, they couldn't believe they were going to be 30 and 30 was old. And I have a good imagination, I'm a creative type. I have a podcast. It's called I Just Got My Kids. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'll be in Eau Claire, Wisconsin in a couple weeks. I just put those in there because I'm creative. But I can't imagine. I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine. I can take up more time to say this, but I cannot imagine thinking that 30s is old. I've just been like through it, in it, around it, and never felt old. Oh, there was one time I remember I was watching the Cleveland Indians at the time, now Guardians. I don't know what the proper way to refer to that is. I talked about that on the Justin Severson podcast through Acme Comedy Club. What? I gotta Google it or something. It's my favorite podcast to go on. It's kind of the only one that has me. But like, I love going. Not that people are like, no, don't get on my podcast. But like, I go on it when I'm doing the club, and Justin's the nicest, and they make really cool reels for you, and then I share information that I've never shared anywhere before, and it's like such a great week at that club because they record it at the club, but it's during the day. It reminds me of that moment in Hoosiers, the movie. Now that we're talking about movies again, where they turn on the lights in the gym and they just come on, but it's like dark first, and it's like you love every aspect of a building. Like if you love basketball a lot, you love the gym when you're playing and you're whatever, but you also love that moment when you're there so early that you get to see them turn the lights on because that's how hard you want to work and play. I grew up in Indiana. We all played basketball. I feel like that way at a comedy club. Like after the show when the lights go off and there's no one in there anymore, I like to go in there and look around and hope that people don't catch me and think I'm creepy. But it feels special to have a place that you like at all times of the day. And like it's easy to like something when the lights are on and people are there laughing, but when the lights are off and you're like, oh, I like this place too. This is probably getting weird, deep. I don't think so. What do I know? I'm not listening to it. I didn't listen to last week's, but I thought it would have been good. I didn't listen to anybody else's podcast last week, so it's not like I was like, I'm not listening to mine. I mean, I think it's a little different. You know, if I don't listen to my podcast, I did it. I was here for it. So it's like being there twice. So there, it's a good, thank you for listening. But back to the thing I was saying about Hoosiers and turning the lights on. This shower thing just came up. Dr. Teeth, the shark behind me, needs a new shower. Because what happens is, here's what you might not know. When you have a studio, which is your bathroom, and you call it a studio, and you have a really cool shower curtain, and then you like sit down and lean up against a shower curtain, kind of too much weight because you're like kind of boxed in with this awesome shelf here that you thought had a reason for being here, but now you're questioning it. But it's got cool stuff on it. You kind of pull down on the Dr. Teeth a little too much, and then the things pop off. These little rings that hold it up together. So anyway, I was talking about something. The podcast in Acme Comedy Club Company. I'm very creative. That's what it is. I went back to it. What? Points to Palisac. If you're a new listener, you might not realize how rare it is for me to remember where I was and how to get back to it, because I usually don't think it's that important. But I realized also at the same time, simultaneously even, that the viewer might value it, and who am I to get out of that for the viewer, you know? The listener, the appreciator, the consumer. People might be listening to this and not doing anything else. I mean, like, why doesn't he get back into that? Why do you go on this other thing? I like the other thing. I'm appreciative of the style and the format and his overall point of view. But sometimes I do that when I go back and listen to him, because I'm not just saying I never do. I like it. You should listen to it. You don't have to listen to it twice. But, like, you should share it, maybe. No, do whatever. But when I listen to it, sometimes I'm like, oh, I could have talked more about this other thing, but I was so busy going off on this thing that I didn't get to the thing. And then what are we even talking about here? It is Veterans Day. It was Veterans Day today. So shout out, I don't think is the appropriate term, but I'm appreciative of all who served, and thank you. And take the time today to thank the veterans that you might have not thanked yet when the podcast was recorded, because it's now not Veterans Day, but I think they're pretty cool. I texted one veteran. My grandpa was a veteran, but he's not alive. He was alive after the war, like the wars, but he wasn't. Like, you know, and then I'm sure there's other relatives and high school friends for sure that I haven't really kept in touch with. But there was one friend I texted, and they were appreciative. And then I saw a man out in public today, because it was the day off, and we went to, I'll just say it, you know. I didn't think I was going to talk about it, because there's been such a theme park theme lately. But we went to Universal Studios, and a friend of mine was in town from Alaska with his family, and they have a child that's about Jack's age. And so I felt like it would be fun, and I brought it up. I brought it up almost too many times. Do you ever have that happen in life, where like you see the synchronicity of it all, and it just glows for you, and you bring it up one time, like someone's like, "Oh, we're going to this, I don't know, we're going to this beach," and you're like, "I live right by that beach," and they're like, "Oh, that's cool," you know, and then you have to be like, "I'll see you there." Because they don't say, "Oh, you should join us." I think they did invite us, and it was fun. But I get so excited when people go somewhere near me, and it works out because Jack didn't have school today because it's Veterans Day. If he had school today, we try not. I don't think we can go anymore on school days because even though there's technically time to go, there's not. Because he takes 4 hours to go to sleep. From like walking in the front door. Do you want to hear the pat? Do you want to hear? I think I could cut some time. I could shave time off here and there, but it's also fun. It's all fun stuff, and that's probably why it takes so long. Because I think I enjoy the things that my son does to kill time before going to bed too much, and that's why it lasts so long. Like video games, whatever. That's fun, or it's not fun. It's usually not as fun as if I was just playing by myself because he just likes to play video games where you defeat each other, and they're not like we play this game. I'll get back to the thing. I think I will. We play this game called Sonic versus Mario 2012 Olympics. Maybe I should start doing it on the live. I'll do a live someday because we play it a lot. We play that. We play Mario Party because Jack really likes against each other games because he loves defeating me. He loves defeating me. He loves defeating anybody. He loves being the winner more than anything in the world. And I don't think I've failed as a parent, I've heard it. Boys especially can be competitive. I've heard that. I don't, and I know that like he's learning stuff, and I don't want to make him self-conscious, but he gets excited when you lose more than when he succeeds. It's kind of like if he was a grown-up, you'd be like, you better be Tom Brady. Like you better be the best. But I don't remember when it is that like you sort of learn the social stuff. I know at age 5 you don't know anything like socially, which I do like because there's just like authenticity to who you are. It's coming out, and who he is a competitive guy who wants to win. He values it. He appreciates it. I think he gets a rush. I don't know when he first won something. I don't know when it first happened, but it's been like not a drug. I won't go that far, but it's been a thing for him where he's like, if he can feel that buzz, then of winning, then he wants it, and he wants it every day. Like when he was younger, which isn't that much long ago, we would just play like a normal Mario Brothers game where it's like one person plays and then we take turns and we try to achieve a goal together. And then somehow like 6 months ago, or maybe it was 4, it wasn't too long ago, maybe it was 3, maybe it was, who knows the timeline. Why am I worried about being specific? No one's calling me on it. No one's like, Michael, come on. 6 months? You've been talking about this. I need a haircut, don't I? I tried to schedule one, and my friend cuts my hair, and she's very good, Dina Rose. And it was one of those things where I was taking advantage of the friendship, I think, and she said it very nicely. But I always texted her for appointments, and then I texted her one time for an appointment, and I didn't get a confirmation, which I kind of knew. Like she said that it was good, but I didn't get like the automated calendar thing that usually goes out to. And then I just showed up, and she wasn't there, and she's always there, always on time, great haircut. But she was like, oh, most people got to start using my website, and I was like, oh, yeah, I probably shouldn't text you personally for setting up haircuts. So we're working on it, become a better person. In the meantime, look at this. Look at all the layers, look at all the, who knows? I feel like if I fell and hit my head right now, I'd be less hurt because there's so much there, which I'm very grateful for. I'm very grateful that it happens. I'm grateful that this can be a style. I feel like growing up, you couldn't have your hair like that and go anywhere. There's maybe like grunge guys, I guess, in the early 90s, but that was like before my high school time. I was not in high school in the early 90s. So, anyway, we met some friends that were going there, and I think they were happy that we were there. But I did feel like in the moment, like when I'm on the road by myself, I'm just like constantly alone. And I was telling someone this recently, and John Mulaney had a joke about that where he was like, I feel alone. And then it was like, let's hang out. And I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. I think like, I definitely relate to that joke. I'm not telling the joke for a laugh. It's his joke. I'm not saying that it's my joke, but I definitely feel like when you work by yourself on the road and you travel, you feel this like sort of sense of, I don't know what the sense is, and it goes away. It's not all the time. Lost, wandering. All who wander are not lost, but you might wander because you're lost. And, I think it's the structure. Like it's just like when you work for yourself and your structure, and figuring out. Also, like being on the road, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have all day, every day to get everything done, and then you're like, oh no, I still have to go to work and all that stuff. I always think it's weird when people. I don't think it's weird. It's interesting. Who am I to judge? But I think it's. Man, I think I messed up my hair. I think I had a good hair thing. Remember in Full House and how much they talked about good hair days? That was weird. So I think that it's nice, but it's interesting. Sometimes it's frustrating when I'm on the road and for like a couple days and someone's like, "What do you do during the day?" And that's after a day where like I didn't get to do all the stuff I wanted to do because it was like you gotta go do a show or whatever. It's just like, what are you talking about? I'm not on your schedule. I'm up until, if you're working at a comedy club, you're not going to bed till midnight. Easy. And then when you have 2 shows, it's hard to get to bed by 4 because like you're done around midnight and then you don't leave right away unless you like really want to. If you really need to get out of there, you can get out of there, but you probably stay a little bit. And then I always eat dinner after my show because I'm not going to punish who doesn't eat after work, It's my job. I get to eat now. Maybe that's a problem. But then once you eat, then you're not going to go to bed right after you eat. And then it's like, well, what else are you going to do, So it's like 4 a.m. Anyways, I'm a creative guy. But when I heard those late 20-somethings talk about how they couldn't imagine being 30 because it was so old, I was like, I can't imagine thinking that 30s is old. When I was, the only time I ever thought that 30, where I was like, oh, this could be old, is when I was watching the Guardians play in the World Series and Rajai Davis was 34 and I was 34. I think I was the same age. And he like stole a base. And that was a big deal that he stole. It was hard to steal bases back then because now in baseball, they made the bases a little bigger. And they also did something else. You can't block the base anymore. But the bases are just like a little bigger. And when you make things like a little different, you make it a little easier for one side of the mound. I was going to say side of the ball because that's football. But so Rajai Davis stole a base in the World Series, and he was 34. And I was like, and I had heard that your peak athletic ability is 28 to 32. So I was like, oh, that's cool. We're still there, He's stealing the base in the World Series. I'm still whatever. But that's when I was like, it's almost the end. But then like Tom Brady played professional football until he was like older than me now, I don't know how old he was, 43, 44, whatever. Now he looks, have you seen Tom Brady recently? Like he looks younger somehow. Like his face looks skinnier. I don't know. Like it looks like he could be in his 20s again. Like it just feels like everything's so like sleek. He's got a sleek aesthetic. Yeah. Maybe that's what happens when you like take the weight of your football team off your shoulders. But yeah. So I that was the only time I thought like 30s could be old. But other than that, like I remember in my 30s being like, am I going to be old soon? But like I didn't notice any difference. I think that's what I realized in my 30s is that the only difference is I was like smarter and more chill and just more experienced and better at what I did. And like, your career is your career. It's like, I think you always want it to keep going up, but sometimes there's waves, and that's nothing. Maybe it's something to do with age. I think like the industry does value youth in a sense, but when you know that you're better than you were before, that's kind of all that matters. So all those people out there in their 30s, you're not old. And that's what I think is interesting about now as I think about people in their 50s. I'm thinking that's old. I bet they're looking at me being like, who's this guy talking about people worried about the 30s? 50's not old. And I think they're probably absolutely. I don't think any age is old there. I think you only think people are old when you haven't seen them for a long time. And then all of a sudden you see them and you're like, oh, maybe you've never seen them before. That's how long it's been. And then they're old. Anyway, maybe I shouldn't have went back for that one. You think so? What's the vote? Was it worth it? I don't know. We're all young. We're all living. So I saw some friends today. They're very nice. And It was so fun today because Universal Studios has a Nintendo World, a Super Nintendo World. That's the brand because I think they're going to add on and put more video games. And Jack made it very clear to me. He said that Universal Studios has video game rides and Disneyland has movie rides. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. He's like, no, Dad, that's what it is. But then as we walked around, he was like, oh, Minions is a movie. And I was like, oh, yeah, it is. And he's like, Mario Brothers was a movie too. And I was like, oh, man. Sometimes it's nice to just let someone realize how right you are all the time and how much they've been stepping in it. Is that how you say it? I don't know why that came out that way. But we saw these friends today, and it was very fun. And because it's very interactive. Like, sometimes I feel like you go to a theme park, you're just waiting in line, and then you do the ride, and you're like, ah! It's kind of like watching a movie together. It's social. And it's more social, I think, than a movie because you're talking while you're waiting in line and you're bored while you're waiting in line. And you're like, and during the ride, you can be like, ah, ah. I haven't really done that in a movie in a long time. And that is fun, though. If you can find a movie that, like, someone can scare you and you can scream at the same time as somebody, it's very fun to watch movies with people who react like that. But the ride. But at this mart, there's a lot of like little games that you play, and they're kind of like team games to get keys so you can go, save the golden mushroom from Bowser Jr. Right? Who didn't know that? Everybody knew that. That's what you gotta do, Dad. And what's the golden mushroom? Is it a trophy? Is it a mushroom that makes you gold? Why is it gold? Who knows? Bowser Jr. took it. You have to go save it, but you need 3 keys. And they're all very team oriented. It felt like a little tour we all went on together, and like we all had each other's backs, even though Jack wanted to beat everybody, and it was very supportive and fun, and I liked that. And then I was ready to go home, and then another friend was showing up, and they didn't show up till later, and I was like, I'm ready to go home, and I've never been ready to go home before, but I want to get Jack to sleep. This is the week where we turn it all around. This cup is from the zoo. We turn it all around. Bedtimes are earlier. It's easier now with daylight savings to get your kid to bed earlier because it gets dark earlier. It's later earlier, right? It should be. Who knows? But I am home. I was going to be in Cincinnati on Wednesday at the Funny Bone, and if you find this out now, I hope it's okay. And then Canton, Ohio on Saturday. Both of those shows got canceled, which is going to begin a new segment for the show called, I don't know if it's going to be called this, but this is kind of a serious one. Usually they'll probably be funny, but the shows got canceled because we didn't sell any tickets, which is fine. Wednesday in general, like you don't go see shows on Wednesday unless you really, really want to go see a show or you get free tickets or whatever. Like I don't take anything personally. And Canton, Ohio, I don't, that was a bar. It wasn't like a comedy club. But I just think that, I'm going to stop talking about that. But yeah, the next show I'll be in Carmel by the Sea, California, and then opening for Kathleen Madigan in Riverside. And what's the other place? El Cajon. I know how to say that. I took Spanish. And not to like promote the shows now. We usually do that at the end of the show. But I was about to say, if anybody has any ideas on how to promote stand-up comedy shows, to get people to buy tickets. I'm going to have a goal to not cancel any more shows. I don't cancel any of the shows. The venues are like, it's costing us more. Because usually, here's the history of it. Before the pandemic, a lot of these clubs would have a comedian come in from Wednesday through Sunday or Thursday through Saturday, whatever it is, and they would just get paid for the whole week. And now there's only like a couple of clubs like that. And now they like want to make money off of one person during the week or just be closed and then pay whatever someone on the weekend less. So that's what we got. That's what we have, guys. So, yeah. That's fun. That's where we're at. But yeah, I ran out of stuff to talk about. No, I was in Minneapolis, Minnesota. That was one of the clubs where it's great, where they have you come in on a Wednesday, and none of those shows got canceled. Thank you for everyone for being there. I got to go on the Jason show also. I remembered that one. How come I can't remember the Acme podcast name? The Jason show is a taped show in front of a live audience that took place at 10:30 in the morning. and maybe it started at 10. No, I think it was 10:30, and I got to do the show to promote the shows, but also Lou Diamond Phillips was the first guest on the show. Which, if you don't know who he is, then you were just like me. I did not know who he was. It's weird because I show up. I didn't even know it was TV. You go on the road and people are like, oh, we got you. We're going to do press, which is so fun to think that anybody wants you to talk about the thing that you're doing later. That's like such a compliment. But usually it's like radio. I just assume it's radio. Because if it wasn't radio, I feel like they would tell you because you're not going to be on the radio. So you should dress like you're not going to be on the radio. I've definitely shown up to what I thought was a radio interview to be like, oh, I should probably go look at a mirror. Because radio is very nice for just really, you can literally, it's almost like a contest to see who can like roll out of bed the worst because no one has to see you. Glasses are on, clothes, wrinkle, whatever. You're just talking and making money in chill environment. TV, it's like, oh, people are going to see me. So I just found out that it was TV the night before, and then I wasn't familiar with the show. I think it is syndicated everywhere. If you watch the Jason show, I think it was very good. Jason's very funny, and his co-host, who's also from Indiana, I think that's how I got on the show. It's because I'm from Indiana. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Or maybe that's just what they want to talk about. But Lou Diamond Phillips is on the show, and so I show up. Back to the story, Michael. Stop. Go. Don't go away from it. What? You're already promoting the shows halfway in, and now you're just not gonna finish the story. So I show up at the time that I was gonna get to, and to be honest, the biggest thing on my mind was that after the show, I was gonna get Jet's Pizza, which is a really good way to go into an unknown situation. That's the advice for the day. If you're going into a thing that maybe you were worrying about, you're excited about, but it could be a little worrying. You really care about the outcome of it because it affects people, it affects you, it affects people you care about. But if you have this thing to look forward to afterwards, that's kind of connected to the thing that like no matter what happens in this thing, you get to do this thing. It always seems like those things go really well. Like when I was in high school, I was a freshman in high school, and you play sports or whatever if you want to, and no judge if you don't want, it's all good. But I did, and my brother played baseball, and I was going into baseball season, so I'd already played football and basketball to very little success, just in victories. We had won a couple, but like not a lot, and I did fine. But then baseball came around, and I was like, and I've been playing baseball for so long. That was one thing that my dad always had us doing, which I don't know how to do that as a dad. I mean, my son's only 5, but I was definitely out there at that age. And I just don't know how if I like pick up something and I'm like, hey, do you want to do this? I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to like, I know how to initiate it. I just feel like he has so much stuff he's into that to initiate another thing is like, now we got to try to go to bed 5 hours before. I really enjoyed playing sports growing up, and I want, if he wants to do that, for him to be able to do it and not to feel like he's behind because his dad didn't play catch with him or whatever. But I also don't know how to know what he wants to do because he doesn't even know what half of it is. Like when we were with my parents for a couple weeks in the summer, my dad had some bases, and when he started playing kickball with Jack, which we all know is called kickball because we just know that, but we don't remember that we didn't always know that. With a kid, you don't always have to think like this. But if you're ever confused by something that's going on or a reaction, I think it's healthy to be like, okay, what would I be thinking right now if I knew nothing about this situation? Because kids run around all day as if they know what's going on because that's just kind of like their survival mode, or they think it's funny, or they just think like, oh, who cares? But really they don't. And sometimes they're wrong. Like they were playing kickball, and then Jack said, tomorrow I want to play baseball. And we were like, all right, yeah, this is baseball. And we had watched baseball before. We've been to baseball games, we've called it baseball. But he thought that, so anyways, we get out like a bat and a ball, and the next day we're playing in the backyard, and he's just so angry and upset. And then, so my dad and I just start, playing because we're like, well, he's going to get upset. My dad was like worried. He's like, why is he upset? And I was like, we did everything he wanted. He wanted to play baseball. He's upset. He just gets to be upset. And then eventually he came around, we played, and it was fun. But then I was talking to him later, and he was like, no, baseball, because in his mind, baseball was just a game with a ball and bases, which could be kickball. So I hope you guys enjoyed that experience. Anyway, yeah, I don't know how to. So with the whole thing, like I don't know how to like. Hey, do you want to play catch? When he doesn't even know what that is. Like, do you want to sign up for T-ball? What's this? What's this thing? And I don't want to just throw him out there. You know, we tried it. I think I don't want to because I've tried it. Sign him up for stuff, and it's just we signed him up for T-ball when he was like 4, and he didn't get a blue jersey, so he was done. Which that's a very adult thing to do for a 4-year-old. Like he's asked that now. He's like, do I get to pick what team I'm on? I'm like, you only get to pick what team you're on when you're really good as an adult. Like Eli Manning was the only professional athlete I know that picked as a rookie. Like he's like, I'm wearing a blue jersey. So Eli and Jack were very similar. Backstory on that, Eli was a quarterback. His dad was a quarterback, played on a bad team for a long time. And he's like, you're not going to this bad team. Because in the NFL, if you're really good, you get drafted to a bad team usually because they have a first pick. And he's like, you're not doing that. So he just said he wouldn't go. And it was the Chargers. And so he ended up on the Giants, which was a blue jersey. And Jack was pulling that out at age 4 with no athletic ability. I mean, maybe some athletic ability, but no like history. No like college performance level to be like, I'm wearing a blue jersey, you know? But that's what he did. But anyway, what was I talking about? Sports. I played. Oh, that's my advice for the week is like, this is how you do something that you want to have success. So anyways, baseball came around and I wanted to be good, you know, but what our coach did, which was really cool and really smart, I don't even know if they did it on purpose, but I think he did. He had a PlayStation, which I didn't have a PlayStation growing up. Never had a PlayStation. Wanted a PlayStation. Still stuck in the Super Nintendo world when I was a kid. And that's what's weird too, is like, that was like a big deal, was to be able to play PlayStation because I didn't have it, you know? And so our coach, as a part of like the whole, when you play a sport in high school, you have like the whole weeks leading up to it. We had like a real draft and we all got to create our own baseball teams for this video game. And then the idea was we were going to play every weekend when we had a long practice. We were going to stay after and play each other and order pizza and have a blast. And I remember swinging doing baseball workouts, being like, you know what? I don't care how the season goes. I'm going to get to play PlayStation and eat pizza with my friends. I don't even know if they're my friend, people who I don't know, like my older kids, like I was a freshman, my older brother and his friends, and then other players my age. I'm going to get to do that. And I never got to do that before. So I was like, whatever happens. And then like I had a lot of success that season. And I think we only did it. We did the draft and then we did like one. I don't even know if I ever got to play. Like that's what's probably not important to cover right now. But the idea was we'd all play each other and have like a tournament of sorts. But once the season started, every Saturday we were playing games. So also my brother sprained his ankle because when you weren't playing, you'd go upstairs where the lights were off in the gym. That's fun, right? And we'd all throw tennis balls at each other and run around. If you got hit with a tennis ball, you were out. And my brother like leaped down a flight of stairs and sprained his ankle. So that might have been why we stopped. But anyway, the Jason show was very similar to that because I found out I was going to get Jet's Pizza because the manager at Acme Comedy Club was looking up where Jason's show was. And they usually take you out to eat when you do press anywhere. It's kind of like a nice thank you for waking up early and doing this thing to help out the whole thing. And before we had gone to this pancake place because we had early press. So we went to Dinkles, I think it was called. I don't know. Jack had like a onesie from there I bought there. Really good pancakes. And this time it was a little later. And Brandon, the manager, saw that. He was like, oh, there's a Jet's Pizza. And he had never been to Jet's Pizza. And I love Jet's Pizza. Like, I don't have Jet's Pizza where I live, but when I go on the road, Jet's Pizza is like enough places to where it feels special, but not too much to where I'm like, I don't like, it's like a normal pizza chain. It's like a special plate and it's so delicious. It's like squares and the crust and I could taste it right now. Like if there's a Jet's Pizza available after this podcast, I would just be like, this podcast would be on fire right now. Cause it already is, right? No, we're having a great 36th episode. I felt like there was something on my tongue for a while. Did you hear that? I think it's gone. I drank some water. Did you know a group of flamingos is called a flamboyance? I didn't know that. That's from my zoo cup. My cup today is not from a team. It's from the species flamingos from the zoo. We talked about the zoo or how that was there. But so the Jason show, Brandon's looking where it is, and he's like, "Oh, there's a Jets Pizza," and he had never been there. And I was like, I tried to say it in a way that was like, sometimes in life, if you feel like you really want a thing and you express it that way, it almost kind of ruins the mystery of it. Maybe that's more with like dating, like if you meet someone and you're super excited about it, not that you should like hide your emotions at all, but I think it's more fun to be like a little adventurous with it and not be like so expressive of your excitement. And that's how I was treating pizza in that situation. Like it was a girl that I wanted to date. I was like, Brandon was like, "Oh, there's a Jets Pizza next door." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Like in my head, I was like, that sounds, Jets Pizza. Because this is the other thing I talked about with Brandon later after we had the pizza and it was already like confirmed we were having it, like we ordered. I was like, also, the other awesome thing about that was we were done at like 11, maybe it was 10. I think I was done by 11. And pizza before noon from a place like that, like they always say, not they always say, but like I've heard before, that can be fact checked. I've heard before that if you're going to have like a surgery, you shouldn't have it like on a Friday or on a weekend unless you have to. You want to get like a Wednesday or a Thursday morning when the surgeons are like on fire, not literally obviously, but when they're like doing good stuff because it's all a job by a human, so you want to get people at their prime when you're scheduling the surgeries. Maybe Tuesday's good too. I don't know. I feel like I'm at my prime midweek. You're not looking towards the end of the week. You're not like, you're not fresh off and not doing surgeries for 2 days. So you're there. And I feel like that's what pizza's like at like 11 a.m. at a Jets because like they've been open for an hour. So everything's warmed up, Sometimes you order pizza late. I might have to get pizza after this. Sometimes you order pizza late and it feels like kind of rushed. And it's like, this isn't the pizza. Like, I get this especially because I eat after my shows, which we talked about. It's like you order food late and it's sure, like it used to be like, oh, it's just not available. Now it's available, but it's not really available. It's like when you go to the grocery store and they're like, we're open 24 hours. Yeah, but for 6 hours, you're restocking shelves. You're just open while you work here. Like go to a grocery store that's open 24 hours when it's not main time. They're just like boxes and boxes. Like it's hard to put your cart through the thing. And then you go to, if you do your real grocery shopping at that time and you have a real cart full of stuff, here's another tricky tip. It's like sometimes they'll try to make you do a self-checkout. So what you got to do is get alcohol and put it in your cart because they won't let you ring up alcohol by yourself, at least in California. So you'd be like, oh, I have alcohol. And then when they start ringing your stuff up, you just got to be like, I didn't know that it was going to be all the, I'll just not get the alcohol. I've never actually done that, but in theory, it sounds like a good scheme. So Brandon was like, there's a Jets Pizza here. And I was like, oh, not like, oh, we should get that. Definitely. Even though that probably wouldn't inappropriate or maybe even funny. Like that, I guess that's good too. If you meet someone you like and they say something about getting pizza and you're like, oh, I like you. Like that could be fun if they're open to it or whatever. I wasn't for sure that he wanted Jets Pizza though. Like I thought he was just, the way he said it, it could have either been like, oh, it's by a Jets Pizza. Like this is the geographic thing we should look for. Or like, oh, we could eat there afterwards. And so I let in with, have you had? I was like, oh, have you had it before? We could do it. We could eat that. As if like, well, it'll be 11. I don't know if it'll be a good time to get pizza, but I'll do it for you, And I kind of want it. And Brandon he was on board. He was like, oh yeah. He played it cool too. He was like, yeah, okay. And we were just like, yeah. And he'd never even been to a Jets Pizza. And I didn't want to burst his bubble because I didn't want to change the location of what we were going to do. But I knew that only Jets Pizzas I know have no dining in. And I think that's what he was planning on because we just drove his car. We didn't drive his house. So we didn't have a place to eat together. I'm not going to his house. So we go to the Jets Pizza after the Jason show, which was great, by the way. Super fun. all because of the Jets Pizza. So we go to Jets Pizza, and he looks, and like there's just like a bench, which you could probably sit and eat at. But those are the pizza places I almost love the most, because when I was a kid, we get Domino's a lot, and that was kind of like it, just like a pizza place where they're just like, get out of here, not like in a rude way, but like, we don't need your money from what you spend sitting down. We make our money selling this thing, and it's so delicious that we don't need this extra stuff. That's what I think. That's my goal. I think as a company, as a podcast, as a person, as a comedian, is to be like, this is the thing that I do well. Have it. Just have it. And that's all you have to have. So I really like pizza. I mean, this is nothing to be said against the Pizza Hut lunch buffet, which I don't know if they do anymore, but that's also really good, and you could eat inside. Pizza Hut was one of the nicest restaurants we had in my small town. But there's something cool about a pizza place with no dine-in option. So we get there, and I could tell that Brandon's like expecting to eat there, and I'm thinking the whole thing might blow up in our faces, But he's really cool. He's like, we'll just go eat at the comedy club, and we'll surprise Hannah, who also works there during the day, because Acme at the time was going through a new freezer situation. So they both had to get there really early. Anyway, you guys need to know all that. So we ordered Jets Pizza. We get the Jets Pizza, and I almost messed it up. That was when I almost messed it up. That was when I almost swang at strike 3, when it was definitely a ball, because I was thrown off, because I've only ordered online from Jets Pizza, where it's like very clear what you're ordering, and just for me, So, but to order for it was like 3 people now. He ordered a large, and I didn't know that they also had like the best part about Jets Pizza is like the ones that are like squares or whatever, or rectangles, and they also had a circle pizza up there, which I'm not familiar with, but I'm not trying now. I've gone this far with the Jets Pizza relationship. I am not gonna go to the circle one. If you're Jets Pizza and you're watching this, I'm not insulting your circle pizza. I'm sure it's fine, but I don't see a reason to go there. I don't know why you went there. Maybe you're like, oh, we gotta have some people pizza for this. It's easy to make. We have the pans already. Fine. But I got a little confused because there was an 8-corner piece pizza, which I think was just like 2 4s, or there was like a large one. I thought the large one was the circle one, and Brandon ordered the large one. I was like, but we want the square. We want 8 squares, and the guy was like, it's the same. And I was like, well, in my head, I was like, why didn't you just call it the same? But then I realized 8 corner pieces, it's like a little different because it's like 2 4s. I don't need to have all corners. I like sometimes the middle. I've had pizza where the middle is the best. So we fixed it. I didn't ruin it. He got breadsticks too, which we didn't eat, but we had it and it was fine. And the whole point of that was that I was super excited about that. So when I went on the Jason show, which I had no idea what to expect, like when they set up the press, they're like, they want, things to talk about. And sometimes you get very specific directions from a comedy club, like just tell them something that will lead into a joke and then do the joke on TV. And then, that everyone will think you're funny and buy tickets. But I asked multiple times to people that are asking me, because it seemed like a thing where they would want jokes, and I was like, do they want premise, like lead-ins for jokes? And they're like, no, just things to talk about. Even I have an email from like the Acme person who was set it up, and I was like, well, do they want, and the guy was like, well, no, they just want something to talk about, and and the funny will just happen naturally. And that's when I was like, you're not a comedian, because. And nothing against the people but I just feel like there's shows where they're like longer and there's stories and it's just a conversation. But when there's like a live studio audience who's like amped to laugh, I feel like if you have a thing that definitely gets a laugh, you should probably do that thing. And, cause they're there to laugh and the sense of like, oh, you'll be funny on your own. I don't believe that. It happens sometimes, but listen to this podcast. It wasn't like this is almost an hour long. I was on for like 2 minutes, I don't know, my bottle it. But anyways, I was like, well, we're just going to see what happens. And luckily the questions he asked led to things that were interesting and fun for everybody. And the audience responded in a really positive way. And they said that they'll have more comedians on. It sounded like they're going to have more comedians on because of how it went. And that's a pat on my own shoulder. It's my podcast, I don't have to dance around how I say things, right? I can just say it. But all that being said, I got to meet Lou Diamond Phillips, who I did not know who he was. But as we were walking into the Jason show, the producer obviously was pretty happy about it because he was like, also Lou Diamond Phillips is in the green room. As if once I saw him, I might like turn around and go home because I'm so embarrassed with how enamored I am with him, which he was the nicest guy in the world. Well, whenever you see someone famous, like 'cause he is, famous, you feel like they might not be nice. So when they are nice, they get all the credit for it, which they should. But he was in La Bamba, and I hadn't seen La Bamba. That's old. That's for the 50-year-old when they were kids. I don't know. I haven't seen La Bamba, and I hadn't seen a lot of the stuff. I knew of the movies, but I hadn't seen them. But he was so nice, and after he got to do 2 segments because he's La Bamba, and he came off stage and he was like, follow that, but in like a nice way. And I was like, I can't. And he was like, you'll be great. And that was my Lou Diamond Phillips story. But he was really nice. I say he was really nice a lot. He was really nice. The Brandon, the manager, who was probably also dreaming about Jets Pizza, recognized him, not from La Bamba, because he was in the newest Black Ops video game. And he was like, I just beat that game. And Lou was like, oh, congratulations. I call him Lou now. Congratulations. Thanks. That's so nice. And then Brandon was like, I should have asked for a picture. I was like, no, that was me. If I hadn't been thinking about the pizza so hard, I could have thought, hey, it sounds like Brandon wants a picture. But yeah, that was really fun. And I think if you look up the Jason show, maybe I'll try to find the link. I think you can find it for the whole episode. I'll post it on my Instagram at Michael Palsack, and I'll post it in the email list too that I send out. I can also post it in the YouTube thing. So if you're watching this, it might already be here. Wow, we just figured all that out. And then I did all the shows, and it was really, really, really great. And now I'm off this week, and then I do the other stuff. So yeah. But I'll see you again before that stuff. I have a lot of laundry to fold. And I have a lot of things to go through in my house. I saw a picture of my house from like when Jack was like 2. Apartment. It's fine. It's a nice place. But I was like, I had like nothing. Not like I didn't have like enough to live on, but I just didn't have a lot of stuff, because kids have they grow and they have stuff. And I was like, I need to find a way to put all this stuff away so I have my life back. I just want my life back. So that's what I'm gonna try to do. I don't know if I talked about this last time. I think it's weird that you have to check candy as an adult. Did I say that last time? I don't think I did. Because it's like, you have such a good time trick-or-treating. I'm still talking about trick-or-treating. That you're like, you go home and your kid wants some candy. And you're like, we had so much fun. We had so much fun. Our neighbors are so nice. Look at all the candy we got. Let's see if any of them are murderers. Like that just seems weird. I asked my dad because I didn't really know how to check for. Which is weird because I've been through 3 Halloweens with Jack so far. So I should have checked all of them, but I was like, what do you look for? And he's like, well, if it looks like it's open or it could have been open. And I was like, why? Because I kind of knew, but he said that when he was a kid, people used to put like, I don't know, I don't think it was super common, but people used to put like needles in them or something in the candy, which is like so sick, People talk about our generation, but what's going on back then? Those are kids, how? That's just reckless. Like, where do you get that many needles? Also, all right, not to end on that, but I think I am. I hope everyone has a great week. Thank you for listening and watching. I want to think of something other than needles, and the pizza was delicious. Hannah appreciated. At first, when we brought it back to the club, I thought Hannah might not have known. Like, she didn't know because she didn't know the Jets. But I thought she might have already eaten lunch, and like, eating pizza when it's fresh is so much better than waiting till you're not hungry. But she hadn't eaten lunch yet. And then we got to eat this pizza, which is made by the perfect time for pizza places. It's like, we want to make a pizza, but our things are ready. We're ready. We got them prepped. And then we ordered it, and it was hot. And it was nice. Not too hot, like by the time we got. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. I love